Hello and welcome to What's New in OpenShift. My name is Daniel Messer and I'm part of the OpenShift product management team here at Red Hat. I'm joined today by a lot of my wonderful colleagues and we are all beyond excited to talk to you about this new OpenShift release version Suite 4.16. As you can tell by the even version number, this is an extended update support release. So it comes with an extra long life cycle. And as every OpenShift release is packed with a lot of open source innovation for the enterprise. Whether you are a seasoned OpenShift practitioner or you're new to this presentation format, it makes sense to kind of take a quick look at how OpenShift underpins the Red Hat Open Hybrid Cloud platform. Starting with an immutable container-optimized operating system, Red Hat Enterprise Linux CoreOS, you can be sure we have you covered whether you run on large bare metal systems in the data center or small servers and far edge device scenario, or any kind of sized virtual machine in a public or private cloud. At its core, OpenShift is Kubernetes, and it ships with a convenient installer and efficient over-the-air update mechanism, integrated monitoring, pluggable authentication, but also with a lot of content in the catalog full of extensions provided by Red Hat and certified partners. You can use this to extend your cluster's capabilities and provide integrated DevOps services to provide serverless computing, service meshes, declarative CI pipelines, a central GitOps-driven application workflow, and much, much more. When you take this to the next level and you operate a fleet of these clusters, you can really implement a multi-cluster management layer with OpenShift Platform Plus. This allows for effective application of security, compliance policies, continuous security scanning, a central container registry, multi-cluster orchestration and lifecycle, as well as a scalable distributed storage system, all part of the OpenShift Platform Plus bundle. You can decide if you want to run this in a self-managed way in your own data center or cloud region, or consume this in a managed service form factor from one of our public cloud provider partners. And it doesn't stop there. With Red Hat Application Foundations, OpenShift Developer Services, and OpenShift AI, you can extend what's possible and truly extend this platform in an open and hybrid sense. But maybe let's start at the beginning and hear from my colleague Karina what is new in the Kubernetes release that underpins this OpenShift version. Over to you, Karina.
Thank you, Daniel. All right, as Daniel mentioned, OpenShift is based on Kubernetes. And OpenShift 4.16 at its very core is based on Kubernetes and CRYO versions 129. And this Kubernetes release is called Mandala, which represents the Kubernetes universe. And with this release comes some important networking and storage enhancements. All right, so out of the 11 features that graduated to stable in 129, one of those is Gateway API. 4 years ago, it was introduced as an Ingress successor, and now it is GA. It is also one of the most collaborative APIs in Kubernetes history, so congratulations to everybody that has worked on this API. So features that went GA in the Gateway API include Gateway, Gateway class, and HTTP route. Innovation will continue to happen in the Gateway API, even though it has graduated to stable. So keep an eye out for features in the experimental channel though the GA API features will continue to land in the stable channel for the Gateway API. Also exciting is that starting in V1, Gateway API includes the common expression language validation rules as part of the CRDs. And another notable feature that went GA in this release of Kubernetes is the read write once pod persistent volume access mode. Yes, that's a mouthful. But this access mode ensures that the persistent volume can be exclusively accessed by only one pod on a single node. This enhances both security and efficiency in scenarios where data integrity and isolation are critical. And this access mode also marks a significant advancement in Kubernetes storage management capabilities. This allows for more mature handling of sensitive and critical workloads. Some amazing stuff happening upstream. Next slide, please. Now, those are some notable key enhancements that landed upstream. Let's talk downstream and some notable customer requested features that were addressed in OpenShift 4.16. OC Mirror v2 has been improved to automatically generate a comprehensive list of objects, which includes all necessary operators and images. You no longer need to manually merge and clean up. V2 simplifies output artifacts to disconnected clusters, ensuring consistency and saving time. I know there's going to be a lot of happy people out there. So for OpenShift on vSphere, we've added automated tagging for machine API managed VMs on vSphere. This is similar to how labels are used in Kubernetes. And for self-managed OpenShift on Azure, you can now migrate to Microsoft Entra Workload ID without having to start over with a new cluster. Let's see, so self-managed OpenShift on bare metal. You can now update your host firmware on day one. So you'll do this via the CRDs using the Redfish API. And for example, if you're using zero-touch provisioning, you'll be able to update your BIOS, your GPUs, your NICs, your DPUs on hosts that are often used as distributed units in an edge location. So that is exciting as well. And we've added the ability to approve or deny certificate signing requests right from the OpenShift console as well. And now back to you, Daniel. Thank you.
Thank you, Karina. Let's dive into OpenShift 4.16. In 4.16, we invested a lot in the core of the platform, but also enhanced use cases around virtualization and edge computing while continuing to provide a strong security posture across the hybrid cloud. In this section, we're going to focus on the highlight features first before we broaden the aperture to the rest of the release. And we are going to start our walkthrough by looking at the lifecycle updates from Steve Gordon. Steve, take it away.
All right, thank you, Daniel. So one of the updates we're making in the 4.16 release, and in fact, retroactively also to the 4.14 release, which came out last October, is for our extended update support releases, we are adding an additional optional 12 months extended update support period available for both premium and standard subscriptions, which brings the total available lifecycle for one of our EUS releases to a total of 3 years. So we introduced originally a 6-month EUS period shown in green here back in 4.12. We're now expanding that with the orange bar here, which is the additional 12 months, the so-called EUS term 2. The purpose of this is as OpenShift and Kubernetes at large has expanded into more mission-critical use cases, we're encountering more and more customers and partners who value being able to use a single release and an integrated set of partners from the ecosystem in that environment for a longer period of time. And we are moving to support that with this extension to the lifecycle. The lifecycle extension we're covering here covers all of the platform-aligned operators that are included in OpenShift Kubernetes Engine. So that's the current state of the scope. We do intend to continue to add operators to that in the future in response to customer demand and needs. For those utilizing the extended update support release upgrade process to pause worker nodes as they move through those interim releases, that functionality continues to be available and works the same way as it did for 4.12 onwards. With that, we'll move on to some improvements from the networking team.
Okay, thanks, Steve. I am excited to announce that a highly anticipated next generation of Kubernetes network policy is now fully supported in OpenShift deployments that are using Oven Kubernetes for networking. Admin network policy, also known as global network policy, offers several enhancements to the traditional Kubernetes network policy implementation, including administrator privileged only network security policies that cannot be overridden by namespace admins and developers. This enables multi-tenant deployments, for example. Network security policies with a cluster-wide scope that apply to all cluster traffic across all namespaces. So, for example, you could declare that all cluster egress traffic must go through a gateway device at the cluster edge for final inspection. And finally, the ability to delegate specific vetted security policies to namespace admins and developers, allowing them the network policy flexibility needed for their rapid application deployments. To accomplish this, Admin Network Policy introduces 2 new layers to its network policy evaluation architecture, one above and one below the traditional Kubernetes network policy evaluation tier. The first new layer comprises cluster admin privileged access control list rules, or ACLs, which are immutable to all other users of the cluster. Any traffic that does not match these top-level Tier 1 ACLs proceeds to the second tier, which contains the traditional set of network policy rules the project administrators and developers can create and edit Traffic that does not match either the tier 1 or tier 2 ACLs then moves to the final new layer, also admin controlled, the tier 3 ACLs. These tier 3 ACLs are used for default policies, such as defining a deny all policy for network traffic that has not yet been matched by any ACL in the previous 2 tiers that specifically allow that particular type of traffic. Next slide, please.
Thank you, Mark. Let's take a look at control plane etcd improvements. We're promoting to general availability the ability to choose etcd latency profiles optimized for the hardware conditions affecting disk and network latency. This feature improves the stability and resiliency of non-standard control plane deployments. We're also adding in this release the ability for you to increase the etcd database size as a tech preview so you can support more dense clusters. Next slide. Let's take a look at permissions for anonymous access. From OpenShift 4.16, we limit the permissions given to the system anonymous user and system unauthenticated group, and by default only allow the following rules. System OpenShift public info viewer is needed for OIDC workflows, and System Public Info Viewer provides version and other non-security sensitive information. A couple things to note here is this only applies to new clusters only, so clusters that are upgraded are not impacted. For use cases where anonymous access is needed, the cluster admin needs to explicitly add the permissions back in for anonymous users. And a cluster admin can add back a cluster role binding for anonymous user if needed after fully evaluating the risk associated with it. Next slide.
Thank you, Joe. In 4.16, we have provided 2 new expanders for our users. The first one is the priority expander. This is configured using a config map named cluster autoscaler priority expander, where you need to list the node groups with the priorities. So for example, if you have a GPU and you need the GPUs to be used, you can set the higher priority in this config map. The other expander is the least waste expander. In this one, you select the node group based on the least idle CPU after scale up. This is available from 4.16. Over to Peter.
Thanks, Subin. Let's talk a little bit about OpenShift virtualization, which is running virtual machines on OpenShift, which you can use for just standard virtual machine workloads or in composite applications where you're running VMs and containers together. We get a lot of questions about folks looking for traditional virtualization alternatives and migration, and we've got a lot of cool things to share with you. So the first is a longly awaited feature, which allows us to do memory over commit, which allows you to get better density of VM workloads on your existing hardware. And you can also scale individual VMs up by adding CPU with CPU hot plugs, so non-disruptively increasing the ability of your workloads. We also have a lot going on in data protection, disaster recovery with the OpenShift Data Foundation team. We've been collaborating with them for some time. MetroDR is now available for all virtual machine configurations, regardless of how many disks or operating systems that you're running. And we're also introducing a tech preview of regional DR, which allows you to take an RTO of 5 minutes or longer to get better resiliency without the benefit or without the cost associated with synchronous replication technology. This will be first available for declarative virtual machines deployed with GitOps, and in the next release that will extend to all virtual machines. The other thing that's very important and customers asked about is how do you integrate with existing ecosystem partners? Right? So everybody's got a different a cacophony or cornucopia of storage vendors out there. We work very closely with our existing partners at Dell, NetApp, IBM Fusion, and Hitachi, and others, making sure that not only is their storage resilient and robust for OpenShift, but for VM workloads on OpenShift. We also have been working very closely with data protection partners folks like Veeam, Trilio, and Storeware and Portworx. But you'll also see we've got some stuff coming up by the end of the year with our partner over at Veritas. And as others commit and share with their roadmap dates with us, we'll update you. Next slide, please. One of the other things that, again, people ask about is, hey, I have a deployment and architecture that looks like this. How would I do that in OpenShift? And how do I deploy my VMs on OpenShift? So we've got a very strong team that knows how to do solutions, and they've demonstrated and documented a reference implementation. There are small, medium, and large recipes in there that are meant to be, here's a place where you can start. It talks about the networking infrastructure and the storage infrastructure, but they are also seasoned to taste, right? If you want to use a different CNI or you want to use a different storage architecture, you're perfectly willing to build off of the things that we've published. One of the other things that really has come into play here is not just, hey, is your technology capable enough to run these virtual machines, which I think we've demonstrated that it is, but how quickly can I get my workloads over there and migrate them in? So we've actually partnered with the Ansible team to build an Ansible migration factory, which actually leverages the migration toolkit for virtualization that we've been shipping for some time now. This gives you a greater ability to do more introspection and assessment of your virtual machine inventory and workloads and look for specific anomalies or things that may need specific customizations. And then you can actually build migration plans that will let you migrate over and actually modify some of these workloads on the fly before they land in your new infrastructure. This gives you a lot more flexibility and robustness when you do your migration, and it also minimizes the risk as you move these critical workloads. Next slide, please. One other place where we've done a lot of work is in observability, not just within an OpenShift cluster. There's a set of dashboards that allow you to see all the virtual machines and all the performance in it today. But we've also partnered with the ACM team and made virtual machines visible throughout the entire fleet infrastructure. So the first would be a set of dashboards that are available in a single ACM instance for the fleet that it manages. Right? And there's a default set of dashboards which show you the health of the operator and some of the details about the VMs within that fleet of clusters. But then you can also customize those reports. And the next thing is, as you scale up and move from a single ACM instance managing a fleet of VMs to a global federated architecture where you have multiple ACM instances, possibly across the globe, you can use that same visibility of having the ability to see my inventory in one location or filtered based on a workload type or some other attribute about that to give you a much simpler and quicker idea to manage these VMs instead of clicking all over the place. This is a very fertile area, and actually if you have any ideas or workloads that you'd like to see or workflows that you'd like to see, we on the PM team would love to hear about that as well. Now I'm going to turn it over to my friend Ramon to talk about the appliance builder.
Thank you, Peter. In OpenShift 4.16, we're introducing the appliance builder, and with it, you can build turnkey solutions with self-contained OpenShift with value-added services and prescriptive hardware, meaning that you can install in one image OpenShift on your target cluster without relying on internet connection or even having an external registry. All you need is the image that's created using the same technology we have with the agent-based installer. Boot that image from a disk, and OpenShift installs in any environment. This is a technology preview starting in OpenShift 4.16. Over to Adele for highlights on HCP.
Thank you, Ramon. Welcome to Hosted Control Planes Land. So in this release, we're introducing a new provider, actually our first cloud provider on self-managed OpenShift using Hosted Control Planes. Previously, we had GA, the bare metal workers with the Asian provider, along with VM workers using OpenShift virtualization. this time around, we're doing the AWS provider alongside 4.16 and with MCE, or the multi-cluster engine, version 2.6. Next slide. All right. It's not just self-managed progress we're making with hosted control planes. We're also making progress in our ROSA Red Hat OpenShift on AWS cloud service, which is also backed up by hosted control planes. And this time we're introducing a new feature that would allow you to bring your own auth server. This has been validated on Microsoft Intro ID and Keycloak, but also is conformant with other OIDC provider. Now, why would we do that? Well, we would like to give you the ability to simplify authentication and have seamless access across all the ROSA fleet using your existing corporate credentials. It also gives you the ability to have unified access control, because when you centralize users and group management across your fleet, you can view that all from a single pane of glass or a single interface. Also, it streamlines your automations. If you have a tool that interacts with ROSA and fleet clusters, you don't have to keep switching on and off your credentials using different providers. You can use your corporate credentials and have your automation tooling point to that. So with that said, I'll hand over to my colleague Daniel to take you on tour with Microshift.
Hey, thanks, Adil. So what's happening at the edge? Let's first look at Red Hat Device Edge and Microshift, which is our Kubernetes distribution for really small form factor field deployed edge devices. There's a couple of things there. Let me today highlight only 3 new awesome capabilities we added to Microshift in this release. First, we added Multus networking. That, of course, helps with, for example, industrial IoT devices that need to connect ports to operational networks to retrieve sensor data and multiple networks. Second, we added a lightweight GitOps agent that can pull config application changes from a central Git, which helps with consistent management at the edge. And the third highlight I would like to feature today is that we now support a direct EOS update from version 4.14 to 4.16 with just one single reboot or restart, which reduces downtime during updates. So much for Microshift. Let's look at Telco Edge and single-node OpenShift. Rob, what are the news there?
Thanks, Daniel. One of the most important considerations of far edge deployments is service downtime. For telecommunications and other use cases, when a node's workload isn't running, it results in customer service disruption or a degraded user experience. There's nothing more important than keeping OpenShift nodes online once they've been provisioned. With 4.16, we're introducing a shift-left methodology and a new technology called image-based upgrades. Single-node OpenShift users can shift a large portion of the upgrade process to a pre-production environment to reduce the time spent upgrading at the production site. Furthermore, if the OpenShift upgrade fails or the application doesn't return to a functioning state, OpenShift can be rolled back to the pre-upgrade state. This ensures that service is restored as quickly as possible in either the upgrade success or failure scenarios. Image-based upgrades reduce the time it takes to do an upgrade, including the service downtime, but it also allows the user to do a direct EUS to EUS upgrade, skipping the interim release. With traditional upgrades, the user must do an upgrade from N to N+1, and then a second upgrade from N+1 to N+2. But with image-based upgrades, the upgrade is directly from N to N+2. So not only is an upgrade significantly faster, but you cut the number of upgrades in half when going from one EUS release to the next. This new methodology is seamlessly integrated into our zero-touch provisioning flows that use Red Hat, GitOps, and Red Hat Advanced Cluster Management, among other Red Hat technologies. Lastly, alongside the OpenShift 4.16 release, we are also releasing a developer preview of image-based install that uses our new image-based technology to rapidly deploy new single-node OpenShift nodes. Please reach out for more information. Doran, you're up. Next slide, please.
Thank you, Rob. We are graduating our cloud service, ACS cloud service, so Advanced Cluster Security cloud service, from limited availability to general availability. It's a major milestone for us. So customer that already using the service will be able to have the full support that they already have, but now it's a full support product by Red Hat. With ACS Cloud Service, customer can easily deploy ACS Central in minutes and scale as needed across different clouds and locations. This allows you to focus on securing your application without the hassle of managing infrastructure. Red Hat will provide a fully managed ACS throughout the stack, including 24/7 expert SRE support and industry-leading 99.5 SLA. We have customers that are already using ACS CS for almost a year to protect their OpenShift workload all over the world. And you can now try it with 60 days trial online. You can also use the product on any OpenShift or Kubernetes deployment in the cloud or on-prem, including ROSA, ARO, EKS, AKS, and GKE. The product is available on demand on AWS Marketplace or subscribe directly from Red Hat Marketplace. Next slide, please. And I'm handing off to Gil. Thank you.
So, with OpenShift 4.16, we are pleased to announce Red Hat OpenStack services on OpenShift, or ROSO in short. This is Red Hat's next major Red Hat OpenStack had ever experienced, featuring a new framework based on Go operators, that's native OpenShift operators, and pure Ansible to manage the external data plane. This is basically modernizing the deployment and the lifecycle tooling, focusing on faster, more predictable deployments with massive scale improvements and very strong integration to the OpenShift ecosystem. This is basically the biggest change that we've ever introduced to the architecture. For the first time, we're having basically a very long experience, so a very long exposure of pre-production code. As you can see in the slide in front of you, we've released beta almost a month ago. So if you are interested, if you have any more information needs, click on that link and you will be able to visit and experience more. And with that, I will hand it over to Daniel.
Wow, thank you, Gil. As you can see, OpenShift 4.16 is really changing the game in some of these areas. You can now, for the first time, enjoy an up to 3-year-long support lifecycle and deploy hosted control planes on AWS. You can also strengthen your security posture by applying a global cluster-wide network policy or use our managed advanced cluster security cloud servers. In virtualization, we make major leaps forward by introducing Metro disaster recovery support for all VM configurations, as well as multi-cluster virtual machine monitoring. Last but not least, on the far edge side of computing, we are putting a lot of emphasis, as you heard, on image-based workflows to simplify install and updates. But it wouldn't be OpenShift if we stopped there, right? Let's hear from my colleague Christian Stark how you would essentially operate such a powerful platform at scale with ACM. Over to you, Christian.
Thank you, Daniel. Next slide, please. Red Hat Advanced Cluster Management for Kubernetes continues to work towards solving problems in the configuration management space with policy-based governance. One of them is simplified troubleshooting of why policies are not compliant. You will be able to easily see the diff in the governance dashboard between the actual Kubernetes objects and what the policy has defined. We are happy to announce the GA status of operator policy, which will make operator management, also and especially when using GitOps, much more efficient. We have made it simpler to control operator upgrades in manual mode with fine-grained control of install plan approvals. We also provide support for cleaning up operators across the fleet. Think of custom resource definitions which actually are not cleaned up. We will be able to control when the operator policy will report non-compliant, for example, when a new version of the operator is available. Also, we are continuing with our commitment to OPA Gatekeeper by bringing in the latest version from upstream. Next slide, please. We finally extended our support to include CNCF-compliant Kubernetes providers. Another highlight is the extended dev preview of right sizing, where we provide recommendations for tuning the namespaces of your clusters. We offer improved search for better identifying and reviewing the status of OpenShift virtual machines across your fleet. We provide advanced options to scale the hub cluster. Another new feature is automated ROSA discovery and import for better integrating with managed OpenShift. We are investing in management of Red Hat Device Edge, including observability, where we achieve dev preview in this release. Now we also allow cluster upgrades between OCP AUS to AUS releases integrated into ACM workflows. For observability, we finally provide fine-grained RBAC as tech preview, where you can define for which clusters and for which namespaces metrics can be reviewed. We release the first, more to come, dashboard to monitor OpenShift virtualization. In ACM Fleet View, you will see the update risk of your clusters. And last but not least, t-shirt sizing feature provides the ability to much easier right-size and scale your ACM observability environment. Passing to Brianna for some updates on Quay.
Hello. In this episode of What's New, Quay gets a boost in security and efficiency with 3 powerful product features to come. The first, global image pruning. And the goal here is we're building on our last release and enabling the same goal of auto-pruning to maintain a lean registry by managing outdated or unused images, thus optimizing storage efficiency now on a global level. We will incrementally add functionality here, so do stay tuned. But for the second feature I'd like to highlight is image expiration alerting. And the goal of this is to enable users to receive timely notifications, allowing you to take the necessary actions you need before images become unavailable. This proactive approach will help prevent unexpected pull failures, ensuring that critical images are always accessible and operations remain uninterrupted. And the last feature I'd like to highlight for today is the API token ownership transferring. This goal of this feature here is to enhance security with the ability to reassign API tokens, ensuring up-to-date controlled access and accurate audit trails that keep up within your rapidly changing organization. Overall, as you can see, we are dedicated to enhancing your Quay user experience with robust tools that provide security and operational efficiency. Thank you for choosing Quay as your partner in container registry management. I'd now like to hand it over to the next PM, Doran Capson of ACS.
Yeah, me again. Thank you, Kina. First, let's talk about the highlight of ACS 4.5 that's coming soon. We're announcing our platform with few new features. The first one on ACS CS, what we mentioned earlier, we're including a new email service. Customer will be able to use out-of-the-box email service and don't need to bring your own email service for notification. If you want to send email from ACS, alerts or reports, it's already baked in the service, so you don't need to bring your own. It will make customer more easy usage for the product. We're adding a capability to use RockCTL in GitHub Actions. We're adding some features there. Make it more easy for reading parameters and using RockCTL, our CLI tool. We are adding, we deliver a core BPF as the default collection method and only collection method in 4.5. This eliminate the need for kernel model for different Linux distributions. So we don't need to use or maintaining different Linux distribution for our collector. We validate that ACS is running on ROSA HCP and also included as part of our CI. So any version of ACS by default will work on ROSA HCP for our cloud customers. We are adding more UI capabilities on secure cluster and generate init bundles, allow the init bundles product a process to be easy to use. We integrate with our partner Paladin Cloud is a CSPM solution and OCM to enable customer to discover a non-secure cluster on their environment in the cloud or on-prem. We introduce we going GA with Scanner v4 and VM 2.0, two major releases of our vulnerability management tools. And we will have some more details on the next slide. And we introduce a new version of our compliance that will introduce a new features like schedule multi-cluster scanning using compliance operator. We enable customer to view results in different filters, enable you to focus on what you need to remediate, and also capability to send the results by email, so you can integrate with your audit tools. So what the announcement so next slide please. What the announcement on vulnerability management. So on ACS 4.5, we release a new scanner called Scanner V4. The goal is to provide an accurate and consistent scan result across both Red Hat Quay and ACS, as well as expanding the scanning support and include additional operating support, operating system and languages. Scanner V4 take the best of existing Stackwork scanner and Claire V4 and merge it together. So Quay and ACS will have the same scanner, and you will have the same results on both tools. And we have one consolidated scanner. It's already in tech preview in our previous release. Now it's going GA. For example, one of the advantages of that Scanner V4 will include Golang support and multiple language, other language that will include in the scanner. And on vulnerability management 2.0, we've facilitated and enhanced the user experience for a new navigation capabilities to provide you efficient access to actionable data and effective vulnerability triage and remediation. We're introducing new filtering capabilities and persona-specific vulnerability management view like workload CVEs, platform CVE, and node CVE. We offer a comprehensive vulnerability reporting with ability to download on-demand report, scope with collections. We also introduce enhanced exception management workflow and audit capability, but previously known as a risk management. Next slide, please. In the next generation compliance is powered by Compliance Operator. So we all know and use a Compliance Operator. We have hundreds of customers using it in the field. We decided that we merge it together with ACS. In 4.5, the release included a tech preview of this integration, and we include a new feature for our compliance offering. The goal is to provide a consistent view and multi-cluster support for all supported standard and profile that come with Compliance Operator. In the new compliance, customer will be able to schedule a compliance scan for all the cluster in the environment in one place, export the result and send them by email. You'll be able to view the result by profile, by benchmark, or by cluster. And you drill down to specific rules and see the status and build the remediation plan. The new UI is beautiful. Please use it, and give us a feedback for the future releases. Next slide, please. Now I'm taking it out from ACS and focus on the new features on security and in OpenShift. And we releasing a tech preview of support router to load external certificate. So today, before 4.16, customer rely on the route resource to load the private key and TLS certificate, exposing their security artifact. This is also pose a problem for lifecycle management and for certificate using OpenShift route using external tools such as Cert Manager. With OpenShift 4.16, we introduce support for adding secret reference as external certificate in the route spec without exposing the sensitive data directly and enabling route to fetch the TLS data at runtime. We also ensure that a new certificate roll out for the router seamlessly when reference a secret as renewed certificate. We also validating the secret store CSI driver operator with Vault. So we're using a HashiCorp Vault and validate it in different solution. Of course, in 4.16, we have tested and document integration for secret store CSI driver operator against SS CSI driver provider as well as Vault security store. The benefit that OpenShift user can use a secret store driver operator to run secret with HashiCorp Vault to CSI volume in OpenShift container platform. And this is already available on Azure and AWS, and GCP is coming soon. I will hand it, next slide, please, and hand it to Jose. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Aaron. Hi, everyone. So let's move to observability. We have many updates. I will try to cover them quick. Let's start with what's new for OpenTelemetry. There is a blog post there in case you want to scan the QR. As you know, the Red Hat build of OpenTelemetry and the OpenTelemetry project, the collector, they have many components such as receivers, connectors, extensions, exporters. So in this release, we are enabling many of them so you can observe the OpenShift platform, objects, events, stats. So just take a look to them. Also, you will be able to receive logs with the file log and journal the receiver. And this one is very important for it. The file storage extension, which helps to address these times in which you are disconnected from time to time, right? We are also enabling the forward connector and the load balancing exporter, as well as a developer preview of the log key exporter. So if we move forward for the distributed tracing updates, we are enabling the tempo monolithic deployment. You can think of it as a drop-in replacement of the Jaeger all-in-one deployment that helps to, hey, I don't need an attached storage that is very huge. I just need to help me getting started or some troubleshooting sessions. So this one is ideal for those use cases. If we go to the tracing UI, we're very happy to share that now if you install, if you start installing the cluster observability operator, you will be able in the next release to observe traces in the console for the first time, which again, we are very happy about this one. We are starting with just showing spans in a bubble chart, but very soon we will move to a Gantt chart, so stay tuned. Let's continue in the next slide with our troubleshooting journey. We move into observability signal correlation. In this one, again, available this through the cluster observability operator with the correlator project. You will be able to now also correlate your signals. So now it's not only about metrics, logs, and alerts, it's also net flows included. And you will be able to troubleshoot in this new panel, which is interactive, so you can click your way out of issues and reducing the mean time to detection and resolution. So take a look into that and provide feedback because this is enhanced dev preview. So let's continue with monitoring. You know, this is very important part for us. So we have many features that are new and some improvements. As I was saying, the cluster observability operator helps in many fronts. And we are also switching as GA to the metric server, which is part of our journey to making the built-in monitoring stack optional, right? So continuing with this effort to make things lighter, we are also providing in tech preview script profiles, and they help to minimize the resource overhead, right? Also, vertical pod autoscaler metrics are available in OCP, and this is for new features, right? For improvements, we've been investing a lot in alerts, improve scrape sample alerts by adding extra flags, also monitoring alert manager view role with read-only access in the developer console, the ability to monitor and detect Prometheus failures or even deprecated fields, and of course the regular components updates. So take a look to them, and we hope you like them, and please provide us with some feedback. And if we move to login, we have a couple of features that we are very happy to share. For the first time, we have an OTLP log forwarder as part of the login 6.0. And this means that you will be able to send OTLP logs in HTTP with the semantic conventions. And we have also refreshed the APIs in the cluster login operator. This gives user greater flexibility in how they work with their logs. Right? And now important information, right? Finally, Login 6.0 will be the first release without support for Elastic, Fluentd, and Kibana. This deprecation was announced in November 2023 with the release of Login 5.8. Elastic, Fluentd, and Kibana will be supported in an extended update support release with Login 5.8 until November 2025. Right? And in a non-EUS
extended update support with login 5.9 until 2025 in October. Right. So now let's move to Tomas. What's new in Insights?
Hey everybody, this release of Red Hat Insights brings two major updates, one of which is Workloads Advisor, which aims to provide you with information on how developers actually misconfigure workloads on your platform. And not only identify these issues, but also provide you with actionable recommendations on how to proceed, as well as debugging procedures for these particular issues. The second feature that we released are update risks in a multi-cluster view, which easily allow you to identify any clusters that have potential roadblocks on their update path. And with that, I'll hand it over to Pau for cost management updates.
Thank you. Hello, everybody. So we are announcing today resource optimization for OpenShift, the general availability of this feature that we released in preview last year. With resource optimization for OpenShift, you can get a specific and actionable recommendations for CPU and memory requests and limits based on different profiles, based on different periods of time. This feature works not just on x86-64, but also on the new architectures that we are announcing support for, also ARM, Power, and Z. All of the functionality is available. Another thing that we are releasing is the Excel and Power BI reports. So most of our customers use cost management not just on the web UI, but they grab data with a REST API and they build their own custom reports, combining data from the cost data and the business data. With these samples, it's a quick start for you to get to your custom reports. In order to make those reports simpler, we are also adding a new feature, which is a tag mapping. So you have tags and labels coming from different places, OpenShift, AWS, Azure, GCP, Oracle Cloud, and you want to make sense of all of that, not have a ton of labels, not have discontinuations in the data flows. So with its tag mapping, tag reconciliation will allow you to have a single pane of glass for all those tags. Another feature that we are adding is this cluster information page. It helps you to self-diagnose any problems with data not being sent, data not being available, data not being ingested. Sometimes you don't know why something is missing or why you're seeing the cost for something but not for the other thing. With this cluster information page, you just go in the page and you will see whether we have read the data from the cloud, from the OpenShift cluster, and what's processed and what's not. It's an easy way to do this. And then finally, another thing is the platform costs. So there's the cost of the control plane, there's the cost of the allocated capacity, but you also have some cross services like a PDF generator, a login microservice, those kind of things, security tool, and you want to distribute the cost of that over all your tenants in your cluster. Well, you just have to define those projects, those namespaces as cross-platform, as a platform cost, and then we will automatically distribute those costs to the rest of the tenants. And that's it. Now, Corrali.
Thanks, pal. Ollie Mobram here. So today I'm going to be covering the update for the Dynamic Plugin Framework. Quick recap, plugins are the best way for you to build a native experience directly into the OCP console. So with this release, the team has been really busy creating materials to help you build, manage, and maintain your plugins. They've added a lot of cool stuff, starting with 2 extremely useful compatibility tables. Then we added a really nice migration upgrade guide to help you move from PF4 to PF5. In addition to that, we added a local development section, plus info about our shared modules and future deprecation section. We're going to be announcing deprecation of PF4, aka Patternfly 4 and React Router 5. Also, if you are just starting, you can take a look at the updated overview page to get you up to speed. So you can find all this info and more at the links provided in the slide. Next slide, please. All right, so for every release, we like to focus on customer requests. We call them console RFEs, and our goal is to essentially provide customer happiness, right? So due to high demand, I'm really excited to announce that we're going to support French and Spanish in the OCP console. So a quick reminder, this means that all client-side strings will be translated only, as native Cube does not support non-English languages yet. Following that, we added the ability to see the previous pod exit status. This will help our users troubleshoot their pods better. Next up, we have a quick start to walk you through the process of our impersonation feature. This feature allows admins to impersonate other users and roles. It's a really helpful tool for debugging RBAC issues. Finally, we're surfacing warning messages from the Cube API server. Previously, this was only visible through our CLIs, and now the UI will display those as well. Last thing I want to mention is that we are really happy that we could take direct input from our customers and deliver tangible solutions with each release in the console. So I'm very excited that we're able to do that for everybody. And with that, I will now pass it on to Mohit for the developer update.
Thanks, Ali. Hello, everyone. Welcome to What's New, OpenShift 4.16. I'll be catering around what new we have for developer experience. So let's get started on that. One of the primary features we rolled out with OpenShift Dev Spaces 3.14. So release is out, and we did a lot of major enhancements with respect to the workflow. One of the major ones are adding init container support for persistent home when it was not working seamlessly with the older versions. We also have enabled support for different AI capabilities using Olama dev file, which seamlessly integrates with your dev spaces workflow. And one of the major support changes would be there that the dev file v1 is now deprecated with this release, so it won't be supported anymore going forward. Then comes the enhancements what we did for Visual Studio Code and IntelliJ plugins. We have a dedicated plugin for developers to work with OpenShift workflow, which is known as OpenShift Toolkit. So we have added major enhancements, specifically catering to creating your routes and port forwarding directly from your connected OpenShift cluster. That can be a ROSA cluster, RO cluster, directly from your VS Code instance. And we have also seamlessly integrated workflow around serverless Helm chart, which works out of the box. One major enhancement, there's a new plugin for Quarkus. So now for Quarkus development, there's a new plugin on IntelliJ and JetBrains Marketplace. And we also have rolled out a support for Java 22 for Visual Studio Code extension. And for customers who are using JBoss EAP 8.x, there is a new extension which works seamlessly on Visual Studio Code and IntelliJ. Previously, we used to have dedicated Eclipse version, but now all the functionalities have been migrated to VS Code and IntelliJ. Next slide, please. The next important experience what we have is Red Hat Developer Hub. That's based on top of CNCF project Backstage, and that fully integrates with Red Hat OpenShift. It accomplishes a lot of functionality which comes together with OpenShift, that you can integrate with serverless, service mesh, GitOps, Quarkus, pipelines. For this release, we have a new UI, which is specifically related to managing RBAC controls. We have a new GA for Red Hat Developer Hub operator out there, and it supports both EKS and AKS together. Next slide. And one of the major enhancements what we have done for AI is we have introduced a new workflow known as Podman AI Lab, where we have a development environment working with Gen AI, where users can go ahead and work with running their models locally, creating a playground environment, having their model catalog, and discovering all the Gen AI capabilities together in the entire interface. Feel free to try out these experiences, and we'll be having more detailed discussions upon and the entire developer experience what we have for OpenShift 4.16. So I'm passing on to Jeff now. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mohit. My name is Jeff Beck with the Runtimes team, and I wanted to talk about a few updates that will make it easier for developers to create workloads on OpenShift. First thing I want to talk about is the Red Hat build of Quarkus 3.8, which was released on April 19th. First and foremost, a lot of our Quarkus customers ask about long-term support, and we are proud to announce that previously it was 6 months, but now Red Hat supports major versions of Quarkus releases for 3 years, which is a big deal for our customers. Also on 3.8, we now have inclusion of dev services for Elasticsearch and OpenSearch. So this is going to make developers more productive in their local environments when they're creating applications that utilize search engines and for data-intensive applications. Also, Java 21 is now the recommended version. We will continue to support Java 17 as well, but with this release, Java 11 has been removed completely, so that's an important thing to note. We also now support Java virtual threads, which will help reduce the effort of writing, maintaining, and debugging high-throughput applications. And lastly, we support ARM64 processor support for both JVM and natively compiled applications. Next slide, please. I also want to talk about the Red Hat build of Keycloak version 24, which adds a number of new features. First off is user profile and progressive profiling support. This will make it easier for applications that want to do progressive profiling. So you may want to offer a low friction registration process for a free subscription, and then as you move to a paid subscription, collect more data. Also, there's a long-awaited multi-site HA deployments, which allows a Red Hat Build a Keycloak to be deployed across multiple independent sites or data centers, providing high availability and speedy recovery for failures. Lastly, passkey supports was also introduced, which will allow you to log in without passwords by relying on other devices and with secured authentication mechanisms with your phone. Now I'm going to pass it over to Jamie with Platform Services.
Thanks, Jeff. We'll start with Service Mesh, which helps you create secure, reliable microservices with automated MTLS encryption, zero trust policies, and visibility with metrics and traces. We'll be releasing Service Mesh 2.6 shortly after OCP 4.16 goes out. This will bump Istio to 120 and include general availability for Kubernetes Gateway API for cluster-wide service meshes. There are some notable updates to distributed tracing in this release. With the general availability of the tempo tracing stack, Jaeger and Elasticsearch, which are deprecated, will no longer be installed by default with new Service Mesh installations. 2.6 will also be the final release of OpenShift Service Mesh based on the Maestro.io project. Shortly after 2.6, we will launch a tech preview of OpenShift Service Mesh 3, which is a revamp of our Service Mesh offering based on Community Istio. This will bring support for features like Canary control plane upgrades and Istio's multi-cluster topologies. We're looking for early adopters and feedback, so please reach out to your friendly neighborhood Red Hatter if you're interested in participating. I'll now hand off to Harriet to talk about GitOps.
Thanks, Jamie. So the latest GitOps version, which is 1.13, is being released next week. So for those who are unfamiliar with OpenShift GitOps, it's based on Argo CD and Argo rollouts from the upstream Argo project and provides continuous delivery for things like applications, cluster config, or any other resources. This is a very exciting release for us as we've got two features going GA, Argo rollouts and applications in any namespace. So if you've been wanting more control over how you're deploying, Argo rollouts include support for Canary and blue-green deployments. You can progress and roll back your deployments manually or automatically based on custom metrics. We've also got 3 customer RFEs included in this release. So the default instance of Argo CD that's installed with the operator will now be using re-encrypt instead of pass-through for TLS termination. If you're using SSH with your Git repos, you can now do that through a proxy. And finally, we've added a new attribute to the SSO provider spec so that you're able to customize the Keycloak route name. And I'll hand over to Gustav to talk about pipelines.
Thanks, Harriet. So we are excited to share some key updates about OpenShift Pipelines 1.15, which is available with OpenShift 4.16. OpenShift Pipelines, again, it's based on Tecton, helps you create cloud-native continuous integration and delivery solutions, workflow automation, etc. So in this release, we have officially released a Red Hat Tecton catalog. This curates a list of Tecton tasks and pipelines supported by Red Hat across various product portfolios. Notably, it includes tasks for OpenShift virtualization, for managing VMs. There are several build tool tasks like Maven, Builder, etc. These resources are available in Artifact Hub with Red Hat as the publisher. Additionally, some tasks and pipelines come pre-installed in the OpenShift pipeline namespace, making it easier to use with cluster resolver specifically for our customers who are using disconnected environments. We are also introducing manual approval workflow in Tecton. You can now use the approval task, which is shipped with our operator, assign specific users for approvals. This feature obviously integrates seamlessly with the console, allowing users to view, approve, reject workflows directly from the interface itself. And lastly, we have added support for ChatOps support in pipeline as code. This allows you to pass parameters and override parameters in your pipeline runs to the GitOps commands to trigger and test pipeline. This feature will be particularly useful to test different kind of scenarios for a PR or MR with different configurations. Next, I'll hand over to Nana to talk about serverless.
Thank you, Gustav. OpenShift Serverless is an add-on operator that elevates OpenShift to OpenShift++ by offering better auto-scaling and networking for containerized microservices and functions. It is based on the upstream project Knative, and with 1.33 release, we would update it to Knative 1.12. We are pleased to announce the tech preview of Serverless on ARM64. With our multi-architecture support, you have the flexibility to choose the best hardware for your workloads. For your event-driven applications, we have now added Knative eventing monitoring dashboard viewing under the Observe in the developer view of the ODC console. We're also introducing new trigger filter that lets you specify complex filter expressions for more flexibility. This feature is also tech preview. Another feature that we are making tech preview with this release is integration with custom metric autoscaler that allows you to extend the autoscaling to the Kafka event sources. Last but not the least, we are thrilled to announce the general availability of serverless logic. Serverless logic lets you orchestrate functions, services, and events to let you provide value to your customers with low-code and no-code approach. For more details on this and more, please check out our release notes, and we would love to get your feedback on our tech preview features. And now let's learn more about installer flexibility with Mac. Thank you.
Thank you, Naina. So yeah, let's review what's new for the installer flexibility topic. As usual, let's start with the different options available for users to deploy OpenShift on all the platforms we support. Installer provision of infrastructure provides a full automated installation experience, including infrastructure provisioning following OpenShift deployments best practices on each provider. User provisioning infrastructure allows the user to further infrastructure customization where the user fully owns the infrastructure creation. Assisted Installer is the web-based user interface for an interactive installation experience. And finally, Agent-based Installer provides a streamlined method to deploy OpenShift in more regulated or restricted network environments. Next slide, please. So while this is not a pure user-facing feature, it's worth to mention that engineering has invested quite a lot of time and effort during this release to start the adoption of Cluster API for infrastructure deployment at install time. This is part of the effort of migrating from Terraform, and we will continue working on this in the next release. Going back to the features for cloud providers, in this release, we have made available some new capabilities on each cloud, starting on AWS. Self-managed hosted control planes are now available, as Adele and Daniel mentioned already. We are adding a new option to reduce the cost associated with public IPv4 addresses, and we are also adding support to the new Calgary region. For GCP, we are adding support to machine types with NVIDIA H100 devices, as well as making Daman and Johannesburg regions available to deploy OpenShift on. We are happy to announce that OpenShift on Oracle Cloud for VMs has been graduated to GA, and we have extended this support to OpenShift releases starting in 4.14. For Azure, customers can now migrate existing clusters to Microsoft Entra Workload ID. This is the former Azure workload identity that we added support in 4.14, and we are ensuring minimal downtime during the process of this migration. We have added support for volume cloning in Azure File as a technology preview feature, and we are introducing technology support as well for the confidential compute attestation operator. For Alibaba, we have deprecated the full automated installation path for this provider and moved this provider for support under assisted installer deployment path. This provider will remain supported as a technology preview during this release. And that's all for cloud providers. I'm passing now over Ramon for on-prem providers.
Thank you, Mac. And let's start with bare metal updates. And in 4.16, we're introducing a new method to add nodes to existing clusters. In fact, not only for bare metal, but also for vSphere and even platform known. This is a developer preview, so we would like you to try it and give us feedback. It's a good opportunity to influence in its development. And basically, all you will need to do is create an image for an existing cluster, boot that image on the node you want to add to the cluster, and everything else is done automatically for you. This will be a new method to add nodes to clusters that we expect will make everyone's lives much easier. Then in bare metal, we're also having support for update the host firmware, as well as updating the VMC address of the hosts once you have installed it, as well as attaching non-bootable ISOs if you wish, for example, pass files with configuration for the nodes. And to finish, and this as well applies to other platforms, now you will be able to install control plane nodes on different subnets. This is to support an additional layer of high availability in topologies where you may want to have more distribution using different subnets. In vSphere, we are introducing for the first time support for machine set VM tagging. This is a highly requested feature that is introduced as a GA, and it will allow you to tag all the VMs of the underlying infrastructure with vSphere. Then we are GA-ing support for control plane machine sets. We are GA-ing static IP assignments when you install with vSphere API. And as I said before, adding nodes with this dev preview, as well as the control plane nodes on different subnets is also supported on vSphere. On Nutanix, we are adding support to migrate from SDN to OVN Kubernetes, as well as in the previous providers, support for distributing your control plane across different subnets. And in IBM, we're introducing Secure Boot for IBM Z systems, ZVM and LPARS, Ingress Node Firewall for IBM Power and IBM Z systems, CPU manager support for IBM Power and IBM Z system is also added in this release of OpenShift. Next slide, please. And OC Mirror. In this release, we are introducing for the first time a technology preview of OC Mirror version 2. Version 2 is a whole new rewritten plugin for OC Mirror, superseding version 1. Version 1 will still be supported. And it introduces things like caching, deletion control, an improved code maintainability, meaning that starting in this release, we are going to be able to add features at a higher velocity and more. See the release notes because there are plenty of new features. And one of them, one of the largest new features in version 2 is enclave support, which also comes as a technology preview, as everything in version 2. In which you will be able to mirror images to and from disconnected environments, saving a lot of time and effort and bandwidth when you have to manage multiple environments in your data center. And with this, over to Subin.
Thank you, Ramon. In 4.16, we are introducing a new command for upgrades, the OCADM upgrade status command. This command is coming out as a tech preview. Kindly use it and give us a feedback. This command will show the different components as they update. It also gives you an estimate on how much time is remaining for an update. This can help you, for example, you can grab a copy and come back and then still catch up on where the update is. In case of any issues which you find in update, we are also trying to help you troubleshoot problematic updates. For example, a draining node issue or any other issue. This status command would show which node or which component is having a problem. At the bottom of the status command, we also provide an overall update health and any of the important alerts which the admin has to take a look at. That's it about status command. Over to Duncan. Thank you.
Thanks, Subin. So today, in all environments, multi-architecture is really where it's at. Whether you're running on ARM, and to be honest, who isn't these days, or IBM Power or IBM Z, OpenShift is there for you. We're a choice to run on those architectures. In this release in particular, we're introducing a tech preview of what we're calling our multi-arc tuning operator. And that's going to help you make sure that your workload gets placed on the matching architecture. So that's going to cut down on admin and reduce mistakes all in one nice, simple tool. We're also making it easier to roll out configurations where you have your control plane on ARM and your compute nodes on x86.
This is really useful in the cloud provider space, as you can take advantage of the cost and power savings that associated with ARM in those environments without having to change any of your application stack at all. And finally, as Ramon's already said, we continue to invest on OpenShift on IBM systems. This release, the additions have a common theme of security. So we're going to take advantage of things like secure booting, installation from an ISO in a disconnected environment, or indeed protect your network with the ingress node firewall, or in fact, all three if you really want to. Next slide, please. On the Windows side of the house, we have the latest release of WMCO, the Windows Machine Config Operator. It really does feel like we're rounding out the product with this release. The first and big one for the team is the introduction of support for disconnected environments. This was, as I said, a really big thing for us to bring in, because if you look at the secure environments that key Windows workloads run in, this was an absolute must-have for us. It should look and feel very familiar as we strive to make all this happen in the same way that you're used to on the rest of OpenShift today. We've also improved our monitoring experience. So up until this release, some of the pod metrics weren't showing up in the OpenShift console. Well, that's not the case any longer. So now you can see the pod and node metrics in all the places that you were expecting to see them. This is just a great step again. It allows you to have a common approach when it comes to monitoring your Windows and RHEL environments. And with that, I would really like to hear some more about CoreOS updates. So how about the one and only Mark Russell take us there?
Well, thanks, Duncan. You are in luck. All right, so hey everybody, Mark Russell again, coming to talk to you about RHEL CoreOS, MCO, and RHEL Workers, which I'm going to talk about first. We are announcing the deprecation of package-based RHEL Workers. And remember, that means we're announcing the deprecation. RHEL Worker support will remain through at least OpenShift 4.18, which, as noted earlier, will have a 3-year life cycle. So there's a lot of runway ahead to migrate, so roughly through somewhere in early 2028. We feel that with the advent of CoreOS layering and other enhancements, we can meet far more of the use cases that often prompted people to use RHEL Workers in the first place. We'll be blogging about the compute roadmap in the near future. Keep an eye out for that. And if you have questions or concerns, please reach out to your account team or to me directly. Moving on to some features that will hopefully make your life a lot simpler. Starting with a small feature, but I think for the right audience, it'll be very welcome. The ability to garbage collect old rendered machine configs. Anybody who has done an OC get machine configs on a very old cluster knows that you probably have a lot of old rendered machine configs. Now you'll be able to use OCADM prune to show you unused rendered machine configs and allow you to delete them from etcd, cleaning out what in some cases might be years of cruft. That should make working with and listing machine configs a lot easier. So iSCSI root disk support is going GA. That's worthy of note. And we have a couple of exciting tech previews that we're, this is going to be the year of the OpenShift Linux administrator. And but this isn't the what's new, not the what's next. So I'll just point out some of the tech previews, right? So first up is on cluster layering. This is our vision of what CoreOS layering and customizing through a containerized base OS should look like. It's an on-cluster build service that will automatically merge your customizations with OpenShift content and do the builds on cluster. We're also going to be talking about this. There's a blog post coming up on that that's going to get into more detail. And second here is a feature called admin defined node disruption. This will allow administrators to make many more configuration changes to nodes without requiring a drain or a reboot. And last, I just want to mention that we're also, for cloud users, we're making strides on updating the boot images. So if you're aware of that issue, we have a tech preview of how you can update your first boot images on GCP, other cloud providers to follow. And with that, I believe I'm handing over to Ju.
Thanks, Mark. Let's take a look at vertical pod autoscaler. So previously, VPA could only be scheduled on the control plane nodes, and in 4.16, we're introducing the ability to schedule VPA pods on infra or worker nodes. And what this means is cluster admins can specify the nodes for VPA pods, ensuring that resource adjustments are handled efficiently and don't interfere with critical workloads running on other nodes. This applies to both standalone OpenShift as well as hosted control plane clusters. Next slide, please. So currently, if a pod enters a terminating state due to a preemption, eviction, or other external factors, a replacement pod is created or immediately fails to start. And so having a replacement pod before the previous one fully terminates can also cause problems in clusters with scarce resources or tight budgets. So to address this problem, in OpenShift 4.16, the job controller will now wait for pods to be fully terminated before creating replacement pods when you specify pod replacement policy failed is used. Next slide. So in 4.16, we're introducing a new interactive flag for the OC delete command. And if you've actually set the flag, what this means is you'll get a confirmation or acknowledgement before deletion. And this feature is introduced as a tick preview. On the must gather front, which is a tool for collecting cluster data, we've added the ability for users to specify a relative timestamp so you can have a more targeted log collection and specify shorter time periods versus the default of 48 hours. In addition, must gather, when you run it, will now automatically include the OC binary version used for the given set of logs that get generated. Next slide. In OpenShift 4.16, the image pool secret generated for service accounts creates a bound service account token that is automatically refreshed when it expires, before it expires. These tokens are time and audience bound, which makes the usage more secure. And so what we've heard is lots of customers asking about this because using long-lived credentials is a security risk with the chance of cyber attacks such as exfiltration attacks. Also, it's a concern for regulated industries where those customers have requirements to use short-lived tokens that are rotated often. So what's key about this particular feature in 4.16 is that we ensure that the builder service account is not auto-created in OpenShift namespaces when the build capability has been disabled. And in 4.15, we had introduced the similar capability where the deployer service account is not available if the deployment config capability was disabled. And now I'll hand it off to Mark or Deepti.
Thanks, Ju. Now let's look at some of the networking highlights in this release. First up, we've often seen customers having constraints on their network that are especially used in OpenShift networking in the data center environment. So in this release, we made OV and Kubernetes internal networks far more flexible, allowing you to modify them not only at install time, but post-installation too. And this is supposed to significantly ease the workload of all the data center administrators. Moving on, we like to remind customers of deprecation of OpenShift SDN CNI. So this CNI will no longer be available from OpenShift 4.17, which is the next release onwards. So for the clusters that are already using OpenShift SDN, you can fully support it, upgrade them to 4.16 and not beyond that. So post 4.16, they need to migrate to OV and K, either using an offline or cold migration or limited live migration. We published a detailed documentation in this release on what we could migrate in a live fashion versus what is left to the users based on their individual customization. So please take a look at it and plan ahead. We also have bumped up the HA proxy version from 2.6 to a stable version 2.8, bringing in further new functionalities and enhancements in this release. And for all the on-prem deployment with OpenShift, we now support an alternative to the usual configure OVS script. And now with this way, we can explicitly configure the VREX bridge to their exact specification at install time. And you can also modify them post-deployment using standard network tools. And this is currently a tech preview feature. Next slide, please. So we're also very excited to announce the latest release of Network Observability Operator version 1.6 alongside OCP 4.16. Now, this operator basically uses an eBPF agent to create flows, and you can view and analyze these flows in your OCP console, and it can give you key networking insights and also help you in troubleshooting your cluster. In this latest release, we no longer require Loki as a prereq for majority of the feature, including the topology view, which you can see in the OpenShift console. This makes it very easy, quick to install, and it significantly reduces your resource requirements to run this. Also now generally available is the ability to create your own custom metrics using the flow log data with this operator. And for this, we've used the CRD-based metrics API, which is available in this release. Another major feature, which is currently under tech preview, is our Observability CLI tool. It's an on-demand CLI tool which you can debug, troubleshoot your network traffic without even having to install this operator in the first place. It's extremely lightweight and works best for customers who prefers a command line form for extracting or passing your information. So we have a lot more enhancements with this operator to make it more robust and feature-rich. So please take a look at the release notes and do try it out, and we look forward to your feedback. Next slide, please. Over to Tony for operator framework updates. Thank you.
Thank you. So today I'm excited to introduce you to the upcoming next generation operator lifecycle manager tech preview, which is a major overhaul based on valuable feedback since OCP 4. One key change you will notice is the shift in terminology. Operators are now called cluster extensions within the API. This better reflects how they extend the capabilities of your OpenShift clusters. But that's not all. Cluster Extension API now provides richer information, including the install bundle name, the version, and even deprecation details. This gives you a comprehensive view of your operator deployments. And lastly, the next-gen OLM also maintains compatibilities with existing custom update edges for your operators, ensuring that version upgrades follow the exact sequences defined by their providers. So to summarize, with this release, we are one step closer to the highly anticipated GA of this next-gen OLM, which is a more streamlined, fully declarative, and GitOps-friendly experience for managing operators and workload with OpenShift. Next, I'll hand it over to Greg for storage.
Thanks, Tony. And hello, everyone. Let's have a look at what's new in storage landscape. So starting with CSI drivers, we're adding tech preview support for a very anticipated driver that allows OCP to consume Samba shares. More on this in the next slide. As we are discontinuing IPI support for AliCloud, the AliCloud CSI driver has been removed from this release. On the VSP side now, we are adding a new capability to customize the maximum number of snapshots per volume, the default being 3 with a maximum of 32. That being said, be careful with the performance impact. Next, we are introducing volume cloning for Azure Fight CSI driver as tech preview, allowing to duplication of volumes. And last but not least, LVMS has also its own set of improvements. So first, we are adding thick volume provisioning support which pre-allocates data for maximum performances. The default remains thin provisioning. On the security side, disk encryption using Lux is now supported with thick provisioning. And last, thanks to optimization on containers, pod consolidation, and other optimization, the CPU and memory resource consumption has been reduced. Other non-driver related features include RWP access mode, as mentioned earlier in this presentation. We are also exposing a new PV field that exposes a timestamp of its last transition, which can be useful to understand for how long a volume has been unused. Next slide, please. As I mentioned in the previous slide, we are adding a new tech preview CSI driver that allows consumption of SMB shares. As for any CSI driver, it's managed by an operator and will be available in the operator hub. This new driver supports RWX and offers 2 provisioning modes. So first, dynamic provisioning via a storage class. In this mode, the driver connects to a pre-configured, usually empty Samba share and creates a subfolder per user provision volume. Static provisioning allows to mount a share that usually contains existing data. A static PV definition needs to be defined with the required connection details. This is useful for sharing data beyond OpenShift workloads. Next slide, please. All right, let's finish this storage update with what's new in OpenShift Data Foundation. First, on the disaster recovery side, we are adding the option to set a replacement cluster as a recovery target in case of a complete disaster. We also improved the UI to support discovered application for disaster recovery. Also, customer who replicate object storage between clusters can now leverage a new capability using bucket logging that accelerates the replication. Now, on the security side, we enabled a default weekly key rotation for clusters which are using cluster-wide encryption. For Azure customer, they can now use Azure Key Vault to secure persistent volumes as tech preview. And two last interesting updates are the introduction of native CSI ephemeral storage and the ability to expand the underlying OSD dynamically. The expansion feature is only available when deploying ODFs through a CSI such as AWS or vSphere. That is all for the storage updates. Thanks, and over to Frank for the telco update.
Thanks, Red. OpenShift telecom clusters, typically 5G core clusters, communicate with multiple remote clusters. For instance, another 5G core site implementing geo-redundancy or a remote management cluster. These different types of communication are segregated into multiple network VRF on the telecom operator network and mapped into different VLANs inside OpenShift cluster. So far, for each of those VLANs, static routes need to be modified every time a remote site is added or removed, temporarily or definitely. This new feature offers to stretch the BGP domain boundaries down to the OpenShift nodes, so routes can be learned for each and every VLAN automatically. Since OpenShift 4.14, this functionality was available by injecting a routing configuration into MetalLB BGP routing stack. This is technically viable, but the exposed API is way too low level, so we have split the BGP daemon named FRR out of MetalLB and created a new component dedicated to manage BGP with a custom resource-based API. This permits a neat interface to share a BGP stack for multiple usage on OpenShift nodes. And here is the first supported use case beyond MetalLB, the ability for OpenShift nodes to learn routes via BGP. Next slide, please. Kubernetes scheduler knows about CPU, memory, devices, so it schedules pods on node with enough of those resources available. But what about network bandwidth? How can also we get the Kubernetes scheduler to consider network bandwidth as a schedulable entity and avoid the situation depicted on the slide where a 25 gig NIC may be overcommitted? The solution is based on the Kubernetes extended resource for a node feature. We have documented an end-to-end supported workflow, as you can read on the right side of the slide, relying on the cluster administrator to declare for each and every node its NIC capacity as a first step. Then, pods need to request a share of the NIC capacity as part of their spec. Pretty simple. In the future, we intend to provide an automatic way to discover and declare the NIC capacity in order to help the cluster administrator. But today's key takeaway is that the current procedure is pretty lightweight, API future-proof, and again, fully supported. Handing over to Rob.
Thanks, Frank. As discussed in the Spotlight features section, we are delivering image-based upgrades with 4.16. In addition to improving upgrades, we've extended this image-based technology to new far-edge installations. Our goal is to reduce the time it takes to install single-node OpenShift nodes at the far edge and to provide operational commonality between upgrades and installations. With this new shift-left methodology, a telecommunications provider or any other far-edge operator can prepare servers in a pre-production environment, so there is significantly less installation work to do when provisioning single-node OpenShift nodes at the far edge. We are publishing a knowledge base article detailing how to perform an image-based install, and we're looking forward to our ecosystem trying it out and providing feedback to help us mature this technology. Please reach out for details. Next slide, please. In OpenShift 4.16, we're adding support for dual NIC PTP highly available boundary clock. This feature allows the user to specify which NICs are used as potential system clock sources. When the currently in-use NIC loses connection to the upstream clock, the system clock will fail over to a secondary NIC and set the system clock using the new NIC's time source. This development is a useful feature in its own right, but it's also a step along the path to implementing the full best master clock algorithm. With that said, I'll pass the focus to Daniel to close out the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Rob, and thanks to all the presenters so far. This is the end of our presentation today. If you feel overwhelmed right now, don't worry, this is recorded, we'll publish the slides, but you can also start learning OpenShift with guided set of demos and labs at learn.openshift.com and actually get a trial version going with a lot of additional information and documentation at try.openshift.com. Last but not least, if you want to take a look behind the scenes, how OpenShift is made, how the upstream projects are evolving, do join the OpenShift Commons, which is our community of users, partners, and contributors to come together and share knowledge. Thanks for being with us today. See you on the next one. Have a nice day.